Hey everyone, RemanX here, and I've got a hot off the presses take on prepping for the Doom 2.0 raid, some concerns I have about the announcement coming forward, and why I think this new ISO event is so important, maybe what you should do with it going forward here. So stay tuned. We're going to go through all these details, kind of give you a very high level prepping for the Doom 2.0 raid, but hopefully give you guys some ideas about those of you guys who haven't maybe even worked on your Doom teams and building towards the future. All right, we're gonna get right into it. So let's start with the basics. First things first, I think that the three-piece combos that they've been giving us, specifically the Secret Avengers and the new Warriors, are going to be the raid future. They're building those, and they have the highest upside and the most flexibility. So I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to start with the skill lane, because the skill lane is something that I spent a lot of time experimenting with, and I will tell you that I don't have a traditional team ready to go. I don't have the Secret Avengers ready to go. So I'm concerned that if they built them with those specifically in mind, that I've only got one piece of that puzzle ready to rock. However, I have been saving up ions. We'll get back into that towards the end over here, and ISOs, so that I can quickly transition to that team. And that might be the important part of it. But you can see that I built up my heroes for hire, Shang-Chi ready for it, and seeing if he can actually get through it. So stay tuned, because this advice that I'm showing you with this team specifically is going to be relevant to the potential that there might be more than one solution, but also that maybe the access requirements may be higher than we thought. So we're going to mutant. Mutant is where I can have been almost consistently one-shotting the node, or getting very, very close. You can see that it's mostly my Axemen here. So I really have only really done my Axemen. So I'll show you guys the Astonishing X-Men, and you'll see that they're not 3.0. So I have a legitimate concern that the access requirement for Doom 2.0 is going to be restrictive enough that it'll say ISO Blue 3. Stay tuned. That hasn't been an announcement yet, but I expect it to happen here soon. I think that's the best team, but it's very easy that they throw in another character for X Factor, and they have that offense up and defense down that I think are the trademark of the kill the team before they kill you aspect that we see in these Doom raids. Being able to kill them quickly and not in taking those insane amounts of damage have been kind of key for us. And I think Mystic Team is solved, and Mystic Team is actually something I'm pretty confident with the new Warriors, except with a bug that's out there. Take a look at the news. I go over that in depth with the Valley. With Deathpool, a brand new bug. But Deathpool is going to get fixed where she's doing it on her own turn. You'll see that specifically we've got Deathpool, Adam Warlock, Silver Surfer, Dagger, and Cloak are going to be the solutions. Adam Warlock feels really good with control, and I think that being able to extend the debuffs from Cloak are going to give us a lot more legs and allow us to really push through that going forward. So I really think the Mystic lane is solved. And I have the ISOs for that if it is ISO Blue 3. And then we're going to go to the tech, which I think is the biggest question mark for a lot of you guys, is what do I do with my tech? And the answer is we just don't know. And because that's kind of where we're at for that, I really am hesitant to recommend Blue ISO. Anything but characters that you've already ISO blued to get you through certain nodes. So stay tuned. You can see that there's some question marks here as far as that goes, as far as the team that'll actually get you through. And it just doesn't, it's probably the least good feeling right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have almost gotten the bio node in a 1.1 down to a one-shot. I'm probably going to release that video this week. It is 85, it is red stars, it is 5 level, being able to get through some of those thresholds on the team and getting them down to the percentages to give this team the speed up. But realistically, that is the difference maker. And so the closer I've gotten these guys to level 85, the faster it becomes and the more tenable it seems. So maybe these are a long-term solution, and we just the level is what's making the difference. And these ISOs are definitely something that I see going forward. That being said, it is very clear that some of the bio characters here, there isn't a lot of options in that regard. When it comes down to it, it just feels like there's just something missing from the overall power to push through, and so maybe that rumor that Valley has in the news is what we're looking at. And so Uh, we'll get that to the last piece of the puzzle here. And I think we did the skill, we did the tech, we did the mutant, we did the bio, and we did the mystic. So what to do with this store? And so this is important. This is kind of like what happened before we had the big transition to the raid with the raid requirements. And so what I'm going to talk about 3 ways to approach this store. And I think the problem with this is there's a ton of agency here, and I want you to be aware that with agency comes some caveats and some things that we want to look at. So if you guys look at these, when you look at some of these where maybe you have like 9 of a damage, maybe you want to pick that up. Blasters are not currently heavily featured, with the exception of they really aren't heavily featured in the raids right now, with the exception of characters that I already have done. So like Surfer, and so if you see like where you have these lows, that would be potentially where you buy them. So the fact that you have these numbers in the inventory, you kind of want to keep yourself like the controller focus. With controllers on the horizon, I may do that, but that's going to get me a 3 if I have 10. So you kind of want to be ahead of that 9 or higher number, so you can kind of build up characters. However, I think the biggest thing here is potentially the ions. This is a big deal. These ion orbs are really kind of key, because you'll see that when I have the raid with the raid orbs, when you're looking at the ones you get for the blue ISOs, these blue ISOs, you're not getting a ton of ions from them. So you'll oftentimes have to, I've spent hundreds of dollars to be able to test ISOs, full disclosure. And that's been my biggest bottleneck. Now, you're going to say, well, what about us? We haven't started the Doom raid. We haven't even come close. If you're lower than 65, I think it's probably important to kind of take a look at the green ISO to make sure you can get into the Doom raids to start being able to do them, and if that's going to be helping you access that. But that may mean that you're not doing enough of the green ISO farming daily, because remember, you know, if your daily objective, you can complete that without spending a dime. You get the 2 free refreshes on the green ISO front. Make sure you're doing that every day. Don't let it cap. Don't let it sit there. Make sure you're getting those, because that's going to be how you progress. So lower than level 65, I think maybe you look at those green orbs, but everything else, I think you're probably taking mostly a look at ions. Remember, we only have a few days of this. The event itself is only going to be lasting for 5 days, which is about the expectation of when the patch is coming forward. You can see it right here: 5 days, 5 hours, and so you won't have a really big opportunity to take advantage of this. This is something where I am currently saying, hold your resources. You're going to have the Kraken's beta testing 2.0, and we may be shifting priorities in teams because of the fact that these raids are largely unknown. And if anything in the past tells us, you know, Boundless likes to make money from these raids. And if you're not adequately prepared to be able to transition the characters that may wind up with additional usefulness, you're going to be behind. And it's the problem right now is a lot of growth for those of people in the Kraken bracket have come from the addition of ISO. And so I think you have to be very judicious in how you spend them. So I'm banking enough. I'll be buying these orbs so I have enough to easily transition into them, so I haven't. I have the ability to switch up and potentially change some of the ISO suggestions. So if you guys know, I was going to have an ISO tier list updated. I'm holding off on that only because with 2.0, I think we'll have a very clear lens of what ISOs are going to be required for these raids to get the most benefit from them. But that should be hopefully not happening early on in the patch, getting some feedback from some of the top players. So hopefully we'll have that going forward. So my biggest recommendation is, and I'm going to say this, is hold those resources. Your gut instinct might be able to level up a character that you might need for the Doom raid right now, but there's no reason that it may flex out a little bit differently. For instance, I regret doing Doom. I regret it. Adam Warlock has replaced Doom for me in the Mystic raid. However, if the requirements are 3, and he's one of the best tech characters, so it's just one of those scenarios where I think a lot of people are making that mistake. And by the way, I have another video coming out, and it's gonna be called "You're Playing Doom Wrong." We're gonna talk about some of the ways to unlock the real potential of Doom. I started red starring my Ultron to test them out for the tech lane as an additional solution, so stay tuned for that. So hopefully we'll figure out why the Ultron red stars populated here going forward, and you know, with Omega Red potentially being a 5th spot on the X-Men, if you haven't built up a team and started pushing 1.1 content, you may be ahead of the game at the end of the day if you use your blue ISOs judiciously, sparingly, and follow some key advice, and stay tuned for the content that's coming up very, very soon. Remember, guys, I do things so you don't have to. I'm going to be doing some more testing. I'm getting a lot more experience with the ISOs, and we'll be working with some folks to help get that information in your hands.